morning, Mr. President. My name is Kirby Burgess. I want to say good morning to everybody here. I want to welcome you to the state of Nevada. What I'd like to do is just introduce, first and foremost, our panel up here and our guest, and then we'll later on engage the kids in the conversation. To my left is Governor Bob Miller. To his left is Under Sheriff Richard Wingate. To his left is Shane Quick. Shane is a 16-year-old youngster who's involved in our probation program. Next to him, and Anthony has a name I'm going to try to pronounce, Mr. President, Anthony Covarrubias. He's 15 years old, and he's in our Freedom program, which is an intensive supervision program. And next to him is Stanley Johnson. Stanley is 13 years old. Big things come in little packages. Next to him, Mr. President, is Ms. Joy Gladwin. She is a parent of one of the children in our program. And of course, you know our congressional delegation, Senator Reed and Senator Bryan. So I want to thank you for being here. Mr. President, it is indeed a pleasure and an honor. And being a fellow Arkansasian, I cannot tell you how honored I am to be here. I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. We're awfully proud of what we do here in the state of Nevada, and particularly in Clark County. I'm the director of Clark County Family and Youth Services. We're a juvenile justice agency that provides services on a 24-hour-a-day basis to children and families. We see approximately 30,000 children a year from all walks of life. Some children who are mistreated by their parents, others who commit minor offenses, and some we have who are heavy hitters. Juvenile crime is a serious matter. While juvenile crime certainly while crime overall rather is down, juvenile crime is up across the country, and Nevada is similar in the state of Nevada. What we have though is we think an opportunity here in Nevada to do something about it, and we've initiated some programs, one of which you saw earlier today, where we have kids out in the community who are paying off fines and restitution, and who are being punished basically for committing crimes by picking up trash and doing graffiti abatement. And that program's been in operation for 6 years, and we've seen a lot of kids. We've done a lot of community services. Mr. President, I truly believe that the family is the key to the success of a child or children. At Family Youth Services, we believe that the family is responsible for the children's behavior and are responsible for those children. Accordingly, Mr. President, we also believe that kids should be held accountable for their behavior. And that is why we have these kind of programs today. At this segment of our presentation, what I'm going to do after I turn it over to Governor Miller and Under Sheriff Wingate, I'd like to engage the children in discussion. These are children who have experienced various degrees of success in our program. For example, Shane has gone through our program, has received a lot of success, and is on the road to recovery. And we believe we won't see him again. Anthony is at about midpoint in his services. He has experienced a lot of successes too, but has a way to go. Had it not been for the program that Anthony is in, he would end up in a youth corrections facility, for example. Stanley is a young man, and when I said big things come in little packages, I wasn't kidding you. He's a young man who's been involved in gangs, lives in a rough neighborhood, and has had a lot of different experiences, some successful, but mostly unsuccessful. We want him to tell you his story as well. And then Ms. Joy Gladwin will also tell you her perspective from a parent's perspective, because we believe in holding parents responsible. We want parents to reassume responsibility for their children as opposed to the state or local government assuming that responsibility. And on that note, I'd like to also thank the Clark County Board of Commissioners, the juvenile judges who support us in our daily activities because we're successful as a team, the state of Nevada, and programs such as the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And on that note, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to Governor Miller. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to Nevada, Mr. President. We're delighted that you're here and that you've taken the time to examine how our law enforcement community works in combating the problems that are common throughout this country. This is an outstanding program that you've seen already out in the field, and we'll hear from these individuals. It's typical of some programs we have in other parts of the state as well, and some other programs that deal with both adult and juvenile offenders. In our last legislative session, working with the legislative leadership is here, and with law enforcement, our Attorney General, our District Attorney, our Sheriff, in a bipartisan fashion, we tried not only to be tough on crime, but to be smart on crime. And that was a recognition that we needed to place emphasis, particularly where the greatest problem areas were, and that was juvenile crime. We fashioned and changed the state laws to provide that repeat offenders in the juvenile system who are above 16 years of age that commit a violent crime will be treated as adults automatically without the need for certification, recognizing that we also have not just juvenile delinquents in our communities any longer, but just youthful criminals. We provided for alternative programs such as the one that you're seeing today to recognize that there is hope for a lot of these young men and women, and that if we intervene early enough before they've committed a couple of serious crimes, that we can turn their lives around. We adopted an approach of restricting access to weapons, which we think has been successful, of enhancing penalties for crimes against gang members, which we think has been effective already and will continue to be. And in the adult system, and we also, perhaps one of the most significant components is we provided for parental accountability. Joy will be able to talk a little bit about that component, but we provide the juvenile judge has the right to order the parents of a juvenile offender to restitution, to community service themselves, to counseling, whatever is necessary. In the adult, we provided for some truth in sentencing for adult offenders and placed our primary emphasis on incarcerating those hardened and violent criminals, and created boot camps and alternative counseling type of programs, lifestyle programs for the less violent criminals, so that we can make our resources go the farthest and utilize them where they're needed the most. It's been a cohesive, bipartisan effort. Our district attorney, Mr. Bell, the first one is a Democrat. Our sheriff, Jerry Keller, is Republican. The legislature bipartisanly adopted this approach as well, and we feel we're on the right track, and we're glad that you're here to be able to share it with us. We really appreciate the assistance of the federal government to establish programs like this and others. Dick Wingett has been a career police officer, has risen to the ranks of undersheriff. The sheriff apologizes. He's at a major city chief of police meeting, or he would be here personally, but he's well represented in Dick, who has always been out and involved in the community, recognizing that police don't just serve a function after the apprehension of individuals, but also serve a function in trying to prevent the commission of crime in the first place. So I'm glad that Dick has joined us today.
Thank you.
I'll join the governor, Mr. President, and welcome you to Las Vegas. In the last 10 years, our population has seen a 78% growth, and yet during that same time period, juvenile violent crime has quadrupled. During this time frame here in Las Vegas, we've seen 146 gangs develop and over 4,000 documented gang members. Last year, we had over 500 drive-by shootings and 119 victims of those shootings. Last year, we saw 24 gang members killed. 18 of them were from homicide, yet 6 were from suicide. This is a violent world that these young people find themselves snarled in. Those kind of facts just cry out to us, to all of us as community and national leaders, to do something about this to make our community safer. Part of that is resources. The city and the county have done admirably at providing to us the resources we need. But your federal crime bill also gave to Las Vegas 28 police officers, and for that, Mr. President, we thank you. In that same time frame, we have seen what the governor spoke about, and that is the passage of the Juvenile Firearms Act, which has given us specific, tremendous tools to deal with these drive-by shootings. But even with strong laws, even with enforcement, which is critically important, the solutions to these problems don't lie strictly with enforcement. We must depend and we must lean and encourage strongly prevention and intervention. That's the concept behind the programs that Kirby has been so active in. That's the concept behind the program we push, and we've been working with for 3 years now called Youth Diversion. While there are many facets to youth diversion, one, just to give you an example of what it does, is it takes 16 through 18-year-old high school dropouts and gives them an opportunity to go through a 5-month semi-military program that at the end gives them a GED. And besides a GED, it gives to them a scholarship. A scholarship either to a trade school or, if they prefer, to a college. These are the kinds of things we're committed to that are the solution to our gang problems. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, at this time, what I'd like to do is really showcase why you're here in Nevada, is to talk directly with our kids. And as I mentioned earlier, Shane Quick is 16 years old. He's had a history of drug involvement. He's on the road to recovery through our efforts and his own, I should add. Anthony Covarrubias is 15 years old, had the history of a lot of things, from I think some weapons charges to other things like that. And quite frankly, he would be in an institution had it not been for an intensive supervision program that we have. This is his last chance, he knows that. And Stanley had history is well documented, as I stated earlier, with a lot of things that have gone wrong, and he's here as well. What I'd like to do is start off just by asking any of the boys, and you guys step in, how have things changed since you've been involved in some of the services we received? Shane, why don't we start with you?
Well, first I'd like to say hello, Mr. President. It's nice to meet you. Things changed for me right when I got out of West Care, the Harris Springs Ranch program that I was in for 3 months, drug problem. That program was very helpful to me, helped me a lot. It got me back on my feet. It showed me just a different route from the bad route to the route I'm on now, the good route, going from drugs to money, just going better. That's all I know about right now, is that I'm just doing good, and I'm gonna keep doing it, and I got no one to thank except for my probation officer, my parents, and myself, basically. A little nervous, actually.
You're doing great.
He's an honest young man, Mr. President. Tony, what about you? I know you were in the Freedom Program, and that's an intensive supervision program, a last chance stop. Why this program made a difference in your life, and where do you see yourself going?
Well, if it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't be here. I'd probably be in a jail or juvenile, and I wouldn't be getting along with my parents, and I wouldn't have the grades I got right now. I wouldn't be going to school, and I'm getting my education, and I'm gonna probably go back to school and graduate. Probably from there, probably go to college. I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it, but I don't really know what else to say. It's just, it's a good program.
How does it work, this Freedom Program?
Well, they come they come every week, every day. I have to check in twice a day. I'm on house arrest, and if you are doing good, you earn privileges to go out for so many hours. You got to be home on time, and they mostly just want you to do good, stay out of trouble, and they'll give you an education and a job, like I said. That's really all I really know what to say.
Why do you think it's helped you?
Because now I'm going to counseling, I'm getting along with my parents, and it's keeping me out of trouble and keeping me off the streets.
Is that your mother out there?
Yeah.
Let's give her a hand. Is your family there?
Tony, what I'd like for you guys to do is speak up, because the press is here and all the audience is here, and these microphones are a little.
Now, what's the difference in the program Tony's in and the one Shane's in? Shane, what's your program called?
I was on probation. That's just weekly checkup. I got out of the place I was in, West Care, and just weekly checkup to see what I'm doing, how I'm doing. I talk to my probation officer. You know, we talk about things. He gives me feedback on what I'm doing. Tell him everything that's going on basically in my life, for he knows what I'm doing and how I'm doing.
Mr. Winger, do you know how many, does either of you know, maybe Kirby knows it, how many young people does your probation officer work with? You know? Do you know how many people?
Yes, sir, I do, Mr. President.
How many?
Our average caseload in community supervision, which is what Shane is referencing, is somewhere between 60 and 80 kids, which is obviously very high. That's why we've gone to, in certain cases, very intensive supervision, where there's a daily regimen, random checking on the children by the probation officers, drug testing where we have to, because those kids need more of a focus than reporting in every 6 months.
So you check in once a week? You check in twice a day? You have to do random drug tests?
No, I did do random drug tests.
For how long?
3 months.
Okay.
Tony, you have to go back into your old neighborhood. Kids get involved in gangs, and no matter what we do and no matter what kind of things we try to help you with, you and your mom, you're going to be back there with your friends. What's going to be different this time around versus previously?
I probably won't be hanging around them as much as I used to, and I probably won't do the crime that they want me to do. All you gotta do is walk away. That's all there is to it, you know. But
Mr. President, Stanley Johnson, who is to your left, is 13 years old. He's involved.
That's pretty good today.
He's involved in a program that you have directly allocated funds for through the OJJDP office. It's called New Directions. It's a program that Stanley has been on for the past 6 months, since January. He's on supervision 24 hours a day. Pretty soon he's going to be going to Idaho, which is a real treat for a lot of urban kids we supervise, on the two-week wilderness programs, and he's going to get a chance to pet llamas and things like that, which is very different. I'd like for him to tell you a little bit about himself. Stanley, why don't you tell Mr. President about your situation? What kind of things have you been doing with your probation officer, for example, Mr. Garcia?
We go 5 days a week after school. He come pick us after school, and then we go to our program. It helps us with our homework and stuff, so we can get up in our grades, and we can try to get out of our program early. And we doing pretty good.
Now, your mother is here today, and I know we do a lot of things with your mom and some of the other parents. We have parent focus groups, Mr. President, where we try to help the parents in learning how to reassert themselves in the family environment. That is, assume control of these kids and make sure they're supervised. Stanley, how has that happened in your family? Why don't you tell Mr. President about that?
What?
How,
Your mother.
How has your relationship with your mother? How do you and your mom get along now? Mr. President, maybe we should ask Ms. Gladwin to tell us a little bit about that, since she is directly involved in some of these parent groups we're talking about.
What it is, my son is also part of the same program as Stanley. We meet once a week, every other week, to try and get together as a parent group and support one another, as well as come up with ideas that will help our children as well. And through the program, which is the New Directions program, it's helped our children a lot and helped our families. It's also given our kids a new way of giving back to the community, something that is positive, as opposed to just the negative that they see a lot around them. And it's helped them in their grades. They are supervised 24 hours a day, both by myself as well as Mr. Garcia. And they've come a long way in a short period of time, and they're doing real good.
Do you work with Stan?
No, I'm just a friend.
And how did you find this program? How did you get involved with it?
My son was actually involved because of some problems that he has had. And because of it, he was put into the program in order to help him so that he will no longer have any problems. This is the first time he's ever had anything like this, and hopefully the very last.
Stan, do you like doing this program every day? Do you think these folks are helping you?
Yes.
You think it's going to help you stay in school?
Yes.
Do you have a feeling, do you think they really care about you?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Garcia does care very, very much for all of these kids. If you
Is
see the
Mr.
way he
Garcia
works
here?
with them.
Me in the front
Yeah,
row.
he
Where
is.
he? Stand up there, Mr. Garcia.
He's really been a large benefit to these kids. He knows when to push them and when not to, and it helps tremendously.
Mr. President, a lot of our children come from single-parent homes, either by design or by, through divorce or through just a circumstantial kind of things. Joy, I know in your situation, I believe you're the head of the household and you have to accomplish everything. What does a program like this mean in terms of strengthening you and helping you regain control of your home?
Well, it makes it a lot easier for me because I know there's somebody else out there helping me, because unfortunately, being a single parent, it's difficult. I don't get the child support that I'm supposed to, so that means I've got to work a lot harder in order to be able to take and get what I need to support my family. And by having somebody else out there who I know is helping me, it helps tremendously. Plus, my child has some place that I don't have to worry about him being. He's in a group or in a gang that I want him to be in. It's positive. It's not negative. He's able to give back to the community instead of taking from it. And that makes a difference.
How much of the problems that young people have, I mean, they're so much greater today than they have been in previous generations. How much of it do you think is due to the fact that children are alone so much more than they used to be?
A lot. Unfortunately, there's a lot more single parents, and it's very difficult for us.
We have the highest percentage of single mothers in the United States here in Nevada, Mr. President.
You know, a phenomenal percentage of single parents are spending more than 20% of their income on child care when their children are very young. And then when they don't need literal physical child care anymore, it becomes almost impossible for them to do anything. That's one of the reasons that these programs are so important.
Yes, they are. Question I have to ask is, why isn't there more programs like the New Directions?
Well, maybe I could talk a little about that. First, let me say what the good news is. The bad news is that the country's figured out how to reduce the crime rate, but the crime rate among children under 18 is still going up. For 3 years in the country as a whole, the crime rate has gone down now. And that's good, but juvenile crime still continues to rise. Now, there are, however, some things that seem to be working. Every one of them seems to be related to giving young people an organized, positive way to spend their time. And I could give you just a lot of examples. We've worked hard, for example, to help communities that wanted to set up curfews, but the curfew programs that really work are ones where the kids also have something to do. I was in New Orleans last week, and they've got a curfew center there so that if a young person violates the curfew, they don't put them in jail, fine them, or just drop them back off at home and let them go out and get in trouble again. They take them to the curfew center and they try to come up with a plan to help the kids with their lives. Long Beach, California has a school uniform policy because they had such a gang problem there, and the kids that designed their own uniforms school by school, but it's reduced violence and other kinds of problems there. There are different ways that are dealing with this. A lot of schools are trying to stay open later, and a lot of places are trying to develop programs like you've got here, where you try to get parents as well as the young people involved in community restitution and rehabilitation efforts. But the main thing I want to say, to get back to answering your question, is our country has got to make a commitment to understand that normally when we see a serious crime, that's the end of years of difficulties that a lot of people have. And that we simply cannot jail our way out of America's crime problem. We are going to have to invest some more money in prevention. And I say that as somebody who started out in law enforcement as Attorney General over 20 years ago, or about almost 20 years ago. And when I was governor, I built a lot of prison cells, and I passed a lot of laws toughening penalties. And we had a very tough approach, but these young people, somebody's got to do something to give them a chance to live an organized, positive life. And when we wrote the crime bill, it's very interesting. We passed the crime bill in 1994. I'm proud of the fact that it's putting 100,000 more police officers on the street, but what I said then, and I'll say again, I'm sure you would corroborate this, a lot of these police officers, a lot of the good they're doing is they're stopping crime from happening in the first place, not just catching criminals more quickly. And we have, all I can tell you is we need to build more support nationally and in every state legislature in the country, and every local government in the country for these kind of programs, because the social and economic realities in which a lot of these young folks are growing up in put them under a lot of pressure that people our age didn't face when we were their age. That's just the plain truth. And we have to find an organized, disciplined, caring environment that we can need to help their parents and support them. There's so many single parents out there doing the best they can. And I was sitting there, I was looking at Shane and Tony and Stan, thinking, one way or the other, these three kids are our future. They're our future, and we got to take responsibility at least to give them the best chance they can to make it a good future for themselves and for the rest of us. And I want to thank you, Kirby, for spending your life on this. Thank you, sir. And thank you for doing it. The other point, I just want to make one more point, and then I'd like to go back and let anybody else talk who wants to talk. For it is amazing to me how much some of these community programs can do on a modest budget. We're not talking about spending a fortune here. A lot of these community-based programs are so much less expensive than a lot of the more expensive things that happened later on. If the program Shane was in works, and he never develops a serious drug habit, then it's a lot less expensive than treating somebody for a serious drug problem later on. That's just one example, just if whatever it costs for Tony to have somebody to check in twice a day with gives him a chance to graduate from high school, maybe go on to college, get a good job, have a good successful life, whatever it costs will be a pittance of what we would all pay if his life took a different turn. And the same thing is true for every young person. So I want to say that I was so impressed when I read about these programs, and I have been almost obsessed with this juvenile crime problem. But not only because it makes our people feel less safe, but because of what's happening to all these kids we're losing. And I also want to say one other thing, to urge you to support the governor, and you've got your county commissioner and the mayor here, the two senators are here. Just now coming into our schools, there's another baby boom generation. A lot of people don't know this and hadn't focused on this yet. I'm the oldest of the children born right after World War II. And we're the biggest, the people my age and down, about 15 or 16 years younger than me, are the biggest group of Americans ever born into this country. And there is now a group just now starting into grade school that when they get in their school years will be slightly bigger than we are as a generation. And if we don't turn this juvenile crime problem around, by the time they're 13 to 16, you cannot imagine what we're going to be grappling with. These young people are actually in a group of Americans that aren't particularly numerous. Their parents were of a generation where people had relatively fewer children. And there weren't so many people in their childbearing years. But I don't want to use this will sound wrong, but these kids have, in a way, by going through this, have given us a chance to figure out for future generations how to rescue young people and support mothers like Joy. And we better take advantage of it, and we better do it now, because if we wait another 5 or 6 years, the dimensions of the problem will be roughly 2 to 3 times greater than they are now, and it'll be unmanageable. So I still, my own view is the right thing for the national government to do is to provide the resources and the legal and other support necessary to let communities pick those programs that are most likely to work best for them, because not every program works the same in every place. And the truth is that every one of these programs, you've got to have some caring adult and some system that works. Somebody can stand up like this gentleman out here and get a round of applause because the kids relate to him or her, as the case may be. So I don't think that we should be prescribing what works. What we've tried to do in our administration is go around and find things that are working, and if people are having some trouble spreading it, like the uniform policy, the curfews, or whatever, we try to help them do that. And otherwise, we've tried to provide what money we could pass in the Congress to let the communities decide what works best. And that's what I think we should do. Senator Reid?
You've been very modest in responding to Kirby Burgess' question about why aren't there more programs like this. I think that it's fair to say, as a member of Congress, how we have had to struggle the last year and a half to save programs like drug-free schools, school to work, fighting for some of these programs that assist people like these 3 young men up here. And as I repeat, you've been very modest, because this has been, without your leadership, even those programs would be gone.
Well, to be explicit, when we fought the crime bill in 1994, there were people who basically said all Washington should do is pass penalties and build prisons, that we shouldn't put the police out there, we shouldn't ban assault weapons, we shouldn't have a waiting period for handguns, and and that it was a waste of money to give funds to communities for these prevention programs. You remember the debate very well. And the most important thing I want to focus on today, I mean, I think the evidence is clear now on what we did on the others, that we were right. But the most important thing is we didn't win the whole fight on the prevention programs, as you know, although both of you tried to help me. But when you see programs like this, you just have to say that every young person in the country, every person like Stanley Johnson in the country ought to be in one of these programs who needs it. And until that happens, we shouldn't be focused. That ought to be the case. But maybe we'll turn it around now, thanks to all of you.
Mr. President, we have time for one more question. From you, either from you or something you want to say, we certainly can. I'd like to pose one question then, because I think it's in fairness to this panel discussion, and as an administrator, I want to know what we can do to improve our services. Shane, you, Anthony, or Stanley, anything that we can do to improve services for young people to keep them out of drugs, gangs, and problems like some of the kind you've gone through. Any last minute thoughts on that?
I'd like to see, something, just get together, just a big event with, a lot of the kids that are out there, that are on the streets, that are still using drugs, that are still getting into trouble, still getting sent to juvenile hall and getting locked up. I'd like to see, just a big event happen, dance, coke, chips, stuff like that, just a big get together and, have people talk and, try to tell you, what's going on here. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay. Any final comments, Mr. President?
No, let's see if anybody, Tony? Stan? Doing great. Let me ask you something. I want to ask you guys something, just one thing. if we weren't here in this big crowd of people, if we were just sitting alone in a room, so you didn't have to worry about being on television and wearing a tie and suit, don't be nervous, you look good in it. And you were trying to tell me what one thing or two things you think I could do or that we could do that would make it possible for more young people to make it, either to stay out of trouble or to get out of trouble if they get in. What do you think we could do to change the way things are in America that would make you feel better about it, that would make you feel better about your future? Is there any one thing you could tell me that you think that we ought to be working on that would make the biggest difference to the largest number of young people your age?
I don't think it's about anybody else. It's all about yourself. If you want to do it, you'll do it. Basically, that's what it was with me. You know, I had help. I had people helping me along the way, but it's all from you. If you want to change, if you want to stay off the drugs, if you want to do what you want to do, you're going to do it.
So that's why you made the other suggestion you did, that we, at least if you got all the kids together,
Yeah.
they'd know what was there for them if they were inclined to ask for help. What about you, Tony?
I can't really think of nothing.
You think the program's been a good thing for you?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of young people your age that need programs like this and aren't in them, that you know of?
Not that I can think of right now, but yeah.
You think there are or there aren't? You think you're reaching most of the people? What about you? You've done well. Let's give the young men a hand. Let's give them a hand. They've done well.
Mr. President, on behalf of the entire state of Nevada, I know I speak for the governor and the Board of County Commissioners and the juvenile judges and the sheriff and everybody else and the congressional delegation, that we just are awfully grateful that you're here and you took time out of your busy schedule to talk with us and visit our kids. Feel free to come back again. We'd love to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to, before I go, I'd like to just very briefly thank Dr. Harder and the staff here at UNLV for letting us all come on a difficult day. Thank you. And I want to thank Senator Reed and Senator Bryan for their support for these programs in Washington. And I want to thank all the folks here on the panel, and Governor and Mr. Wingate, and especially you, Kirby. But, ladies and gentlemen, let me say again to you, I thank you for coming out today. But you look at these, when we leave here now, you look at these three boys sitting up here with me. And remember what I told you. If I had told you 3.5 years ago when I was inaugurated president that we'd have 3 years of declining crime, but that the crime rate among juveniles would go up, you would have a hard time believing that. We cannot let that be true 5 or 10 years from now. It will consume this country. It will change the whole way we live. So if you really like what you've seen today, and you like seeing these young folks up here sitting with the president instead of being in trouble and being nervous and doing the best they can to do something good, if you like that, then you need to support these programs, and you need to make sure every child in this state that needs it is in one, and you need to support these people that are doing it, because they are proof that we can turn this around. But we haven't gotten to everybody, or the numbers wouldn't be what they are, and we have to do it. This is a very urgent problem for our country, and we can only change it in 2 ways. One is, like Shane said, when people decide they're going to make a difference in their own lives, and secondly, when adults like you take responsibility in every community. We'll keep trying to do our part, but remember, we need you. And if you like this today, when you go out of here, make sure you're going to do something to turn this situation around. Thank you. God bless you all.
straight and narrow, huh?
Did well, Anthony.
And you did all right, okay? Just stay up here.